Squad is Quads and welcome back to another review video. Today we are looking at the Caddx GoFilm 20 and the Avatar Goggles X. First of all, to get the legal guff and buff out of the way, Caddx did send me both of these free of charge. They have not paid me for the review. They have no editorial control over the review. I have no talking points to hit, and Caddx will not see this review until you do. On with the review we go. Looking first of all at the GoFilm 20. A few specs first of all. It comes with an F405 all-in-one flight controller which supports between 2 and 4S and has included ELRS built in. Motor-wise, it's running 1303 6000 kV Caddx branded motors, which Caddx claim are tailored for the GoFilm 20, offering the perfect synergy. Where this really does shine is in its video transmission and recording system. See, it's running something called the Caddx Moonlight system. That is installed and supported by a little sort of buffered camera cage to really help you get buttery smooth video. The true star of the show though is that Moonlight. The Caddx Moonlight will support up to 4K 60 frames per second. It will offer you either electronic stabilization or the ability to do it in gyroflow yourself. It supports manual shutter and manual ISO settings, so you can really dial that camera in. And it has a 160-degree field of view. Now, I didn't want to make this into a Caddx versus DJI review. So there are some key questions that we do need to ask ourselves when it comes to this new product from Caddx. And ultimately, the question that people are going to be asking themselves and others all the time is this an alternative to DJI? In America, we have something going through Congress currently, which is looking to prohibit the sales of DJI craft. New DJI craft, old DJI craft, current DJI craft. The ban is far and wide, and people are looking for alternatives now. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you should rush out there and buy something that isn't DJI, but it's an important question to ask, because if the ban does go through Congress and you can no longer buy DJI O3 Air unit, you're going to have to look for something else. So instantly people are going to start asking the questions, what's the alternative? Is this the alternative? How does this fare? How does that fare? So in this section, we're going to have a look at not just if DJI got banned, but ultimately if DJI did get banned, is this a DJI killer? If DJI doesn't get banned, is this good enough to switch to if you're a current DJI pilot? And all questions along those lines and in between. So if we look at, first of all, the Spec versus the DJI O3 Air unit, because that's the latest and greatest, and this is the latest and greatest from Caddx. And ultimately, the Spec is very similar. Both do 4K 60. The O3 does go 4K 120. Both can be stabilized in post using gyroflow, and both can be stabilized in camera using the systems provided. Now, the level of stabilization provided by each is slightly different. Some may prefer the look of DJI, some may prefer the look of Caddx. There are different modes where DJI won't record gyro data, whereas the Caddx will record gyro data in all modes. But then there are some modes for the Caddx that won't automatically stabilize it, and you'll have to do it yourself, whereas the DJI will automatically stabilize it. So as always, it's a trade-off, and ultimately you have to choose what is best for you. From a convenience point of view, if you're not a pilot who wants to stabilize the footage as little as possible because you've got a great build and you just want something to spit out and post on social media, then the O3 is probably a little bit easier. However, like I say, there are some modes where if you're a pilot that wants to fly in a certain frame rate and a certain resolution, it may not automatically stabilize. It may not spit out the gyro data for you, whereas the Caddx, regardless of the resolution, frame rate or whatever else, will always spit out that gyro data for you to then post smooth yourself. So convenience versus ability, or convenience versus functionality, you have to pick one of them. The next section we're going to look at is the on-screen display, or OSD, versus the DJI O3. And this, for me, is a clear, hands-down winner to Caddx. End of story. I'll show some examples on the screen now, but just to explain a little bit, although the DJI O3 does have a version of canvas mode is what original pilots would call an analog on-screen display, whereby you can have anything you want, wherever you want, in any font you want, potentially depending which boards you used at the time, colours, that sort of thing. The Caddx avatar system, including the Walksnail Moonlight or Avatar Pro, will provide you with a full canvas mode. So you can have any font you want, you can have any OSD item you want, and you can have any colour or whatever, depending on which font you choose. Some fonts even change, so when your battery goes really low, it goes from green to orange to red to a skull face if you go too far down, which is the particular one I have because I like to murder batteries. The DJI O3 system, however, does have canvas mode, or a version of canvas mode, but it's not as good. You can't choose your font, you can't choose your colour, it's all in white, and that's it. End of story. That's it. Game over. So, from an on-screen display point of view, if that's something that's important to you, the Caddx wins by miles. So when it comes to range, I will give the legal answer and then I'll give the answer that I've seen on the internet. The legal answer is you can only fly as far as your spotter, if you fly an FPV, can see the orientation of the drone, and either the Caddx or the DJI will easily fly within this visual line of sight distance. However, on the internet, a friend said that what they'd done is the max distance of the DJI O3 is, I believe, limited to 10 kilometers. I'm not sure if it's hard limited. I know that the Caddx Vista was hard limited to 13 kilometers, so you could still have a full signal, get to 13 kilometers, and it would just go black. I think the DJI O3 is very similar, but at 10 kilometers. The Caddx Walksnail, I've seen a friend down the pub tell me that they've done 50 kilometers on the Walksnail system. Now, that's not necessarily with the stock antennas, but any long-range flight, generally speaking, the first thing you're going to want to do is look at better high-gain antennas. So when it comes to range, the Caddx Walksnail system, according to the internet and the guy down the pub, wins by a country mile, or a country 50 kilometers. Penetration. Now, when it comes to penetration, in stock form, the DJI O3 hands down wins. So if you're going to fly in a bando behind big, thick, steel reinforced concrete walls, and you're not the type of pilot to change your antennas, then the DJI system, especially the O3, wins out here easily. However, it gets a little bit more murky and confusing when you start adding patch antennas and better antennas than what is stock. The DJI O3 system is, and always will be and always has been, phenomenal at penetration. The Walksnail system, when you add patch antennas and better antennas, pulls that distance, that gap between the two, a lot closer, and I mean a lot closer. To the point, I'm happy to say that if you was to go to a bando and you had either a patch antenna or a better set of antennas, I'm not going to recommend a specific company, but if you had a better set of antennas on your Walksnail unit, you will have just an easier time as flying an O3 in a bando. So I'd call this one a tie. Genuinely I would, but only with the caveat of not with the stock antennas. The stock antennas will do a job. The stock antennas are fine in 90% of situations. But like I say, if you're flying behind several concrete steel reinforced walls in bandos with other people, you are going to want to upgrade those antennas. And to be fair, I would always recommend anybody in FPV upgrade your antennas. I've even upgraded my antennas on my goggles too for my O3, because it's the thing, it's the lifeblood between your video and your goggles, and you want as much lifeblood flowing between the two. So it would be the first thing that I would recommend any pilot upgrades. Quality versus DJI. Well, like I said, both shoot in 4K, both shoot 60 frames per second. The DJI does shoot a slightly higher frame rate, both do 100 megabits per second. I showed a very slow, deliberate flight using the Walksnail system to a pilot friend of mine, Jedi FPV. And I showed him a fast O3 flight. Now, I did this for a reason, because I wanted him to concentrate on the detail. And I said, which one is the O3 and which one is a different product, and what product do you think that is? He picked the O3 as the fast, flippy floppy freestyle flight, and he said about the Caddx Moonlight, and I'm sure he will leave a comment below and verify that he said this. This is not a sales pitch, by the way. I'm not paid to say any of this. But I sent it to him and I said, what do you think this is? And he said, what type of GoPro is that? Now, I'll try and line the flight up with this particular segment so that you can see what he was talking about. Yes, it's been heavily color graded. Yes, it's been heavily color corrected. I've removed noise, I've added stabilization. So yes, I've done lots of work on it. However, he genuinely believed it was a GoPro. So quality versus DJI. As always, if you're willing to put the time in, you can make anything. I'm a photographer. My background is photography. And as I would always say to anybody getting into the game, there's no money in it. No, I would say to anybody getting into the game, taking a picture is 50% of your job. The other 50% is the post-processing. And exactly the same can be said when it comes to shooting a video. It's not just about adding your titles, adding your transitions, adding a bit of music. You've really got to spend time color correcting, color grading, and just making that footage pop. If you do that, you can make the Caddx Moonlight fool somebody into thinking it's a GoPro. And I can say that because I did. If I'd have done the same slow, deliberate flight with all the same corrections on the O3, he may have said the same. I didn't. Community interaction and updates versus DJI. Well, any pilot who's been in the game for a while will know DJI don't talk to the community, they don't interact with the community, they don't add the features that the community wants. They will release a product and you either buy it or you just go away. Caddx have released numerous updates. Now, okay, sure, part of that was because at the start it wasn't in a very good situation, it wasn't in a very good place, but they fixed it. They listened to what people wanted. They brought out a gimbal to stabilize head tracking and that sort of thing. Caddx genuinely do listen to the community. They don't always get it right, and they don't always necessarily finish what they start. There was a situation with Caddx whereby they said that they was going to bring out canvas mode for the Caddx Vista, which is the DJI original air unit light, if you like. And then the next thing we heard, they're bringing out the Walksnail. I called Caddx out for this and said, come on guys, you said you was going to do it for the Vista. Oh no, we're going to do it for our own system. So there are sometimes Caddx will listen but not necessarily finish the job to completion, but at least they listen. And what I will say is they do try the majority of the time. They do try. Sure, sometimes they don't get it right, sometimes they don't finish it. DJI don't even listen. So from a community interaction and an upgrade point of view, we've got to give that to Caddx. DJI will upgrade the O3 to work with the new Goggles 3 as and when they've sold enough units, and I believe that's just now happened. Caddx will interact better. Freestyle ability. versus the DJI O3. And I'm going to put a freestyle flight on screen now and show off that freestyle ability. And I think we can all agree it freestyles and it smooths out the freestyle really well. It's got a nice clean gyro data read, which in turn spits out a very nice clean gyro smoothed flight. If you are buying the Caddx Walksnail or Moonlight system or the Caddx GoFilm 20 for freestyle, you won't be disappointed. The Caddx GoFilm 20 itself is a 4S 2-inch, so whilst 2 inches is a little bit on the smaller side to freestyle hard, as I've proven here, it's more than capable of it. Ideally, you'd want a slightly bigger craft if you was going to be just freestyling, so you may want to look at a 4-inch. May I recommend the Flyfish RC 4-inch Atlas? I have a Moonlight version of that, and it is absolutely exquisite. I also have an O3 version that's equally as exquisite. It's a brilliant frame. If you're going to stick a Moonlight in anything, I'd highly recommend you stick it in the Flyfish Atlas 4, and I'll put a link to that frame in the description below so you can grab yourself one. Cinematic ability versus the DJI O3. And again, we get in a really nice clean gyro data read, which has given us a really nice clean smoothed out footage. Cinematic versus DJI, I'd call this a draw purely because both are absolutely brilliant at it. I don't think any one of them can beat the other because they both do it to the best of the ability available. So cinematic, if you know, pick whichever one you want. There is one particular flight that I'm going to put on screen now around a holiday site that was done at about 10 o'clock at night. Unfortunately, I did actually take off with another sub 250 drone with an O3 attached, and it was pitch black dark. You just literally couldn't see anything. It was completely unattempt to be flied, let alone flyable. However, if we look at the footage on screen from the Moonlight and the GoFilm 20, as we can see, it is not only is it flyable, but it's usable as well. This was 10 o'clock at night. Cars had the lights on, street lights were on. The picture does not do justice to how dark it actually was. It was incredibly dark. It really does bring it out really, really well. The level of noise is quite low. Now, the GoFilm 20 and the Moonlight kit do come with an included ND filter. I did remove that ND filter for this flight, but as you can see from some of the pictures that I've put on screen, the frame perfectly incorporates that ND filter. I have used the Caddx Moonlight on another build, and I wasn't actually able to get, because the ND filter used for the Moonlight system is quite a chonker. However, on this particular build, the GoFilm 20, they have made sure that it fits perfect, so you can use it with and without. And that's really good. Really insightful building, really plus point to Caddx there. Squad, can you do me a massive favour? We've experienced exponential growth, but I really want to get this community out to as many people as possible. Can you leave a comment, let me know if I've ever helped you. This channel is small enough to still care about answering every single comment going, so leave a comment and you'll get an answer, whether it's a question, whether you just want to abuse me. I don't mind, I don't care. I'll interact with all of you. I love it. I really genuinely do. Please do leave a comment, share this video with people who may find it useful, and let's continue this incredible journey that we're on together. As always, the final question is, should you buy it? And it comes down, I think, to two things. If you're an established pilot who already owns the Goggles 2 and the O3 Air unit, this will do everything that you've got there differently. Some of it better, some of it not quite as good, some of it the same. There's no doubt that the Walksnail system has made me a better pilot because I dare fly it faster. It has the lower latency versus DJI. And because it's slightly cheaper to, well, considerably cheaper to replace a camera or a VTX if I was to have a really bad crash, it gives me that confidence to fly it much harder than a DJI or an analog that I can't see. So if you're a pilot that's got an O3 system and is a little bit nervous on flying it too hard, but you want to improve your skills, then absolutely I'd recommend this. If you're somebody who's brand new to FPV and you want to pick up something that's got the right goggles and the right drone with ELRS, so you can just pick up one of the numerous remote controls that have got ELRS built in, again, I'd highly recommend this. I think this as a package is brilliant. DJI don't offer anything other than their Avatar series, and that's really not aimed at people who want to learn FPV. That's aimed at a different segment. Not a bad segment. I'm not going to start sort of putting people down. Just aimed at a different segment other than people that want to learn and fly true FPV. And ultimately, if you want a proper, real on-screen display, again, it's another reason to buy it. I think where I'd find it difficult to recommend to somebody is if they didn't want to try a new system. If they already had an O3 system, then I think I'd find it a little bit difficult to say, well, give it a go, because obviously it's quite an investment if you're already invested in the hobby. But if you're coming in with the original DJI unit and you want to upgrade to something else, or you've got HD0 and you want to upgrade to something that's better quality, or you've got analog and you want to upgrade to something that's better quality, then again, ultimately, this as a package is absolutely brilliant, and I would highly, highly recommend it. I'm going to leave a link in the description below. It is an affiliate link. It won't cost you an extra penny, but it will show Caddx that sending me this was worth their time. You've all been amazing, and I've been Quads. And until the next video, peace!